Welcome back to Browsing Security by LayerX. This is the deep dive where we unpack critical cybersecurity trends, especially for you, the security leaders listening in. Today, we're doing something a bit special. We're diving deep into a really important new report. It's called the Secure Enterprise Browser Maturity Guide, Safeguarding the Last Mile of Enterprise Risk. It's authored by Francis Odum, the founder and CEO of software analyst Cybersecurity Research, and honestly, we think it's essential reading.
It really is. What's so striking about Odum's report, I think, is how it just zeroes in on this fundamental shift that, we've been observing across the industry for a while now. The web browser, it isn't just a tool anymore, right? It's basically become the primary workspace. The report puts a number on it. Over 85% of the workday now happens inside a browser dealing with SaaS, web apps, everything.
85%. That's staggering when you think about it.
It is. And it's not just on company laptops either. The report says 90% of organizations allow corporate data access from personal BYOD devices. Think about that. Your entire digital operation essentially running through that single pane of glass, the browser. That fundamentally changes where your security focus needs to be.
Yeah, that 85% isn't just a workflow stat. It's a huge flashing sign saying your attack surface is right here. Odum calls it the last mile problem in enterprise IT, that final interface between the user and, well, everything else. And despite all the money poured into security, SWGs, CASBs, EDR, DLP, you name it, the browser itself, it's still this massive blind spot. Honestly, when I first saw this next stat from the report, it said 95% of organizations report experiencing a browser-based cyber attack. That really stopped me in my tracks. It feels like a huge indictment of our traditional security thinking. It just begs the question, what are we all missing?
We believe that 95% figure isn't just alarming. It's basically the report declaring, very bluntly, that if you're not actively securing the browser, you've left the front door wide open. So our goal today isn't just to, summarize the report for you. That wouldn't be that helpful. We want to really dig in, provide a thoughtful, data-driven analysis, pull out the key insights, the trends, and most importantly, connect all that directly back to the real-world challenges you face every day: risk prioritization, attacker tactics, where your defenses might be weak, and what new solutions are emerging. Think of this as actionable intelligence for your next security strategy meeting.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The report is crystal clear. The browser is the new battleground. Primary workspace, primary target. You've got that 85% workday figure, the 90% BYOD access. It just cements the browser as that last mile attackers are hammering, hence the 95% attack stat. It really sounds like a perfect storm of vulnerabilities meeting opportunity.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what the report concludes. And frankly, it's what we hear echoed constantly from security teams. These aren't small gaps. It's a fundamental vulnerability where the browser sits. Odum includes this really telling anecdote from 2024. A financial firm found out an employee had, totally unknowingly, installed a malicious Chrome extension on their personal device. For months, this thing was quietly siphoning corporate data, authentication cookies, the works.
Wow.
And the kicker, their existing security stat, CASB endpoint AV, completely missed it. Why? Because the exfiltration happened entirely within the browser's own domain. The data never really hit the network or the file system in a way those tools were looking for.
Right, it's that classic last mile blind spot.
Yeah.
The data just moves from one part of the browser to another, maybe out through an encrypted channel, and the traditional tools are blind. So that brings us to the tools. If traditional DLP can't even stop someone copy-pasting sensitive info into, say, ChatGPT, where does that leave us? Traditional DLP, it relies on network proxies or endpoint agents looking at files. It struggles with these browser actions, especially inside encrypted SaaS sessions. It's like a black box.
Exactly. It's not just about fileless transfer in the technical sense. It's that the context is lost.
There's a quote in the report, and we've heard variations of this ourselves, something like, our DLP can flag if someone emails a client list, sure, but it's powerless if they just copy-paste that same list into an AI chatbot.
That's a critical point, and it's similar for SWGs and network filters. They're vital, of course, but they just can't decrypt and inspect every single dynamic action happening inside an already established encrypted TLS session in the browser. It's like trying to read a letter after it's already been sealed and mailed. And CASBs. They often miss shadow saws on BYOD or those direct-to-cloud connections users make. Plus, they might not catch actions happening inside a legitimate, sanctioned app's web interface if the data technically stays within that app's context.
An EDR AV, They're mostly looking for malicious processes,
Mm.
dodgy binaries running on the device. They often completely miss attacks, confined purely to the browser, like malicious scripts injected into a legit website, or even just risky user behavior, like downloading sensitive stuff from a company portal and then uploading it to a forum.
Yeah, to the EDR, that just looks like normal browser traffic, not a malware execution.
Exactly.
So, as the report makes very clear, these gaps aren't just theoretical worries. They are critical, real-world vulnerabilities. We're seeing it across the industry from our own research talking to CISOs. Existing security stacks leave this very distinct, very vulnerable gap right where the browser operates, and that's turned the browser into this huge attack surface that threat actors are now actively and successfully targeting. They're using the tools your employees need to do their jobs.
And building right on that point, the report highlights another massive accelerator here, the explosion of generative AI. It's created this real paradox, hasn't it? The same browser tab that lets employees innovate and create is now also the fastest way for sensitive data to just walk out the door.
It's fascinating and worrying. These large language model interfaces, they practically invite users to paste things in raw source code, customer data, strategic plans, whatever they're working on. The report found that over 65% of organizations admit they currently have basically no control over what data employees are copying into these AI tools.
65% lack of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all remember that Samsung incident in 2023, right? Engineers pasting proprietary source code into ChatGPT led to temporary bans, but the data was out. Every single prompt someone enters into one of these tools is effectively an unsanctioned API call. And your traditional perimeter security, it has no idea where that payload actually lands once it's inside the browser's encrypted tunnel. We're hearing that boards are really starting to press CISOs on this now. They want proof, guarantees that confidential info fed into AI can't somehow resurface publicly, and we think this pressure is a major driver for rethinking browser security.
That's a really powerful point. So what's the answer then? What's this control imperative for the AI era that the report talks about?
The argument Odum makes, and we strongly agree, is that secure by design enterprise browser controls are uniquely positioned here. They operate at the point of interaction.
Okay, how exactly do they provide that level of insight that other tools miss?
Well, they can do things like fingerprinting and classifying data before it even leaves the browser. They can apply really granular identity-aware policies directly to the clipboard to upload fields, download actions, even specific prompt fields in AI tools. Imagine preventing someone from pasting anything flagged as internal confidential into an external AI website in real time.
Okay, yeah, that's
Right. They can even do real-time redaction or tokenization of sensitive data bits.
Yeah.
And critically, they can stream all this detailed telemetry, who did what with what data, in which web app, straight to your CM or XDR. You finally get that audit trail. We believe that by essentially upgrading the browser from just a passive rendering tool to an active Zero Trust Sentinel, security teams can actually reclaim that last mile, and importantly, do it without completely wrecking the user experience. GenAI might shrink the distance between an idea and potential data leakage, but a properly hardened enterprise browser can stretch it back out again.
Okay, let's dig a bit deeper then into this evolving threat landscape focused on the browser. It really has gone way beyond just, traditional malware links. Starting with that GenAI data leakage we just discussed, users are, often willingly, sometimes accidentally, sharing sensitive stuff with external AI. The report calls it an automatic data exfiltration channel. That 65% stat on lack of control is just chilling.
It really is. And then you've got the related challenges with web and SaaS DLP as everyone moves to cloud apps, Slack, Google Drive, Microsoft 365, whatever sensitive info is constantly flowing through web interfaces. Traditional DLP, built for monitoring file transfers on the network or endpoint, just struggles to police this effectively. We're talking about that fileless leakage copy pasting, typing things into forms, actions that often fly under the radar of older systems.
Right.
And the compliance angle here is huge. For regulated data, IVA, GDPR, PCI, not having granular visibility into how that data is handled in the browser is basically a ticking time bomb.
Absolutely. And it's almost funny in a scary way how fast shadow AI became a thing. We used to worry about shadow IT being rogue spreadsheets on personal cloud drives. Now it's potentially highly confidential data being fed into who knows what new AI tool someone found online.
Yeah.
The report mentions the average large organization uses something like 10,000 different SaaS and web apps.
Yeah.
Many totally unsanctioned. Employees try things out, right?
Of course.
So corporate data, ends up scattered across these platforms, maybe including new AI tools, with zero IT visibility or control. It's like the digital Wild West out there without browser-level monitoring.
It truly is. And layered on top of that are the persistent risks from BYOD and just general off-network access. When users are on personal devices, IT loses a massive amount of control. Your corporate EDR or DLP probably isn't installed. Policies are easily bypassed. The report cites a staggering 98% of organizations experiencing BYOD policy violations. Attackers know this. They target personal devices specifically because they're often an easier entry point to pivot back into corporate cloud apps via the browser, neatly sidestepping your network and endpoint defenses.
98%.
Yeah.
Wow. And then there are the browser extensions themselves. They can be super useful for productivity, no doubt.
Yeah.
But they run with incredibly high privileges, often with very little real oversight once installed. Odum's report references that discovery in late 2024, 33 malicious Chrome extensions found harvesting data from over 2.6 million users. Things like authentication tokens. That's a direct line into corporate accounts.
It highlights a major supply chain risk right inside the browser. Even extensions from official web stores can go rogue after an update or be acquired by malicious actors. They become a built-in exfiltration path.
Yeah, absolutely critical.
And finally, let's not forget the old favorites, just modernized. Sophisticated phishing and web-based malware. Phishing attacks almost always play out in the browser now. The fake sites are incredibly convincing, often hosted on legitimate cloud platforms, making them really hard to block with simple URL filtering.
Sure.
And malware delivery has evolved too. Drive-by downloads from compromised but legitimate websites, exploitation of browser vulnerabilities. We saw multiple Google Chrome 0 days exploited in the wild in 2023 and 2024. Even fully patched browsers aren't immune if a 0 day pops up.
So it's a complex picture.
It really is, and we're seeing these evolving risks truly become the main battleground for enterprise security today. Security leaders absolutely have to widen their focus to include this user-facing layer because these threats are common, they're impactful, and frankly, they often just sail past traditional defenses.
Okay, this leads us perfectly into what seems like a really practical part of the report. Francis Odum's browser security maturity model. It sounds like a roadmap, right? A way to systematically tackle this browser security gap. It's built around 3 stages: visibility, then control and enforcement, and finally integration and usability.
That's right. It provides a logical progression. Stage 1, visibility, is all about, well, switching the lights on in that blind spot. The main goal is simple. Understand who is doing what in which browser, on which device, and critically, where your corporate data is actually going via the web.
How do you get that visibility?
Through capabilities like inventorying all the browsers and extensions in use, collating really rich telemetry web requests, file uploads, downloads, copy-paste actions, new extensions being installed, spotting anomalous behavior. The outcome's pretty straightforward. You drastically reduce the unknowns. Your security team isn't flying blind anymore when it comes to browser activity.
Okay, that makes sense. Illuminate first. Then stage 2 is control and enforcement. So once you can see what's happening.
Exactly. Now you move to preventing or containing the risky stuff in real time. This is where you start implementing active policies, things like blocking access to known malicious sites, setting granular rules for uploads and downloads in specific web apps, and crucially, enforcing DLP right in the web flow, like actively stopping PII from being pasted into that unauthorized AI tool we talked about.
Ah, the active blocking part.
Right. It also includes managing extensions properly, maybe enforcing stronger identity checks like MFA for high-risk browser actions, hardening the browser against exploits, and providing real-time warnings to users. The outcome here is measurable risk reduction. You're actively intercepting risky behavior, shrinking that attack surface.
Got it. Visibility, then control. Was the final stage, integration and usability.
This is where browser security becomes, ideally, just a seamless part of your overall security posture and the user's workflow. The goal is to weave it in so tightly that it's almost invisible, an enabler, not a blocker.
How does that look practically?
It involves deep integration with your existing security ecosystem, feeding data to your CM and XDR, coordinating policies with your IMM, ZTNA, maybe your CASB or SSE platforms. And there's a huge focus on usability. Fine-tuning policies so they're not overly restrictive, ensuring performance isn't impacted, maybe offering different modes for work versus personal browsing, plus good user training and communication. It also covers broad deployment across the org and using metrics for continuous improvement, the outcome. Browser security is essentially baked in. Fewer incidents, faster response when things do happen, and crucially, users accept it because it doesn't get in their way.
That model makes a lot of sense. But the report also touches on how you achieve these stages, right? The different architectural approaches. It compares RBI, enterprise browsers, and enterprise browser extensions.
It does, and it's an important comparison. Remote browser isolation, or RBI, definitely offers strong containment by rendering web pages remotely. But as the report notes, and as we've certainly observed, it often comes with a pretty poor user experience latency sites breaking. It's increasingly seen as a bit outdated, maybe only suitable for very specific high-risk use cases. Not really for your average knowledge worker anymore.
Yeah, the UX complaints about RBI are pretty common. Then you have dedicated enterprise browsers.
Right. These offer potentially very deep control and good integration possibilities because they are the browser. But the big hurdle is user disruption. You're asking employees to switch away from Chrome, Edge, or whatever they're used to. That's a big ask.
Yeah, good luck with that sometimes.
Exactly. So adoption can be tough and coverage might be limited. They seem best suited for maybe specific BYOD scenarios or contractors where you can mandate a dedicated browser.
Okay, and the third option mentioned is enterprise browser extensions, like LayerX, for instance.
Correct. And this is where we believe you find the optimal balance for most organizations. The user experience is generally excellent because people keep using their familiar native browser, Chrome, Edge, whatever. All their bookmarks, passwords, extensions just keep working.
So less friction.
Much less friction. But the extension still provides that rich visibility and granular control across all their web activity within that native browser. Deployment is typically much easier too, and they integrate well with the broader security stack. We really see this as a strong fit for broad deployment, especially for knowledge workers on managed devices. It secures the browser without forcing a disruptive change. It meets users where they are.
So it's about finding that sweet spot between security and usability.
Absolutely. And we believe Odum's maturity model provides a fantastic framework for thinking about this journey. Our approach is really designed to help organizations move through those stages effectively, from just realizing they have a blind spot to confidently managing the browser as a secure, integral part of their environment.
It really feels like, as we try to connect the dots here, all roads increasingly lead back to the browser, don't they?
They really do.
We're seeing all these big trends collide right there. The rise of Gen AI directly makes risks from shadow IT and dodgy browser extensions even worse.
Yep.
And the challenges of BYOD make traditional DLP and EDR even less effective, precisely at that browser interface. These aren't separate problems anymore. They're compounding each other in the browser.
They absolutely are compounding, and the pace is just relentless, isn't it? The speed of Gen AI adoption, the constant shift towards more web-based work, the increasing sophistication of browser-native attacks, these trends are accelerating. It puts security teams in that constant bind. How do you implement robust controls without crippling productivity or creating so much friction that users just find ways around the security?
The eternal struggle.
It is. And that report's maturity model, especially stage 3, really emphasizes finding that balance. It's key. Get too heavy-handed and you lose.
So given all this data, all these trends converging, where do we think defensive investments are ultimately headed? What's the smart money on it?
We strongly believe that investments are going to shift and are already shifting towards these more integrated, granular, and user-friendly browser security solutions. Solutions that specifically bridge that critical last-mile gap that traditional tools just weren't designed to cover. It's moving beyond just securing the network perimeter or the endpoint device itself. It's fundamentally about securing the interaction, the user engaging with data, right there inside the browser. That's the new frontier.
That's a powerful way to put it. Okay, to wrap up this deep dive, let's leave our listeners with one final key prediction or takeaway based on everything we've discussed from Odum's report.
Okay, here's what we predict. The browser is going to fully solidify its position, not just as the main place work gets done, but as the de facto control plane for enterprise security going forward. Solutions that can deliver comprehensive, truly native browser security, visibility, control, the whole package without messing up the user's workflow. They're going to become absolutely indispensable. We're talking moving from nice to have to fundamental must have for any organization serious about resilience and compliance in the next few years. This browser space, this is where the critical data security battles will be won or lost.
A must-have, not a nice-to-have. A strong closing thought. We definitely encourage you to explore LayerX's own insights on securing the enterprise browser and see how solutions like ours can help you navigate this rapidly evolving landscape. And as always, please share your thoughts with us on this topic. We're always keen to hear your perspectives and experiences out there. Thanks for tuning in.